Hi.
Hi, heroes and heroes. So today we want to talk about books, and let me start with a little quote. I read for growth, firmly believing that who I am today and who I will be in 5 years depends on two things: the people I meet and the books I read.
That was a quote by Twyla Tharp, right?
Yeah, from The Creative Habit. We talked about the creative habit in our last book club. And this book I like very, very much because sometimes you just feel as if all your creativity has left you and you have no inspiration at all. You just keep on trying to sit down and somehow nothing will come to you. And
yeah, I really like this quote as well. I mean, also the reading part, because
and when you feel like this
no, it's fine.
When you feel like this, then sometimes all you need is a little push, a little bit of an exercise. And she says, also Twyla Tharp says that all you need is to make creativity a habit.
Yeah, makes perfect sense to me. So maybe I should give a bit short recap, because we read this book, The Creative Habit. So basically, yeah, I mean, I'll just quickly make a recap as good as I can, because there's so many chapters and it's a quite long book. We read it as an audio book. And so she starts with this large white room. I mean, she's a choreographer and a dancer. So basically her creativity stems from like an empty white room, and then she can build on that. But it's the analogy for the white paper for the author, the empty stage for the for one performing. So it can be a stressful situation to have nothing, and then you have to build it up. But she says, on the other hand, it can become your beloved habit to be in that situation, that stressful moment, having an empty paper in front of you and then start writing. And really what you need is then later she goes into the rituals of preparation. You always need to be prepared for what's next. And so, I mean, take some fundamental things in your life into consideration, like have a daily routine, maybe look into your fitness or whatever you need to have a working body and working mind to be sharp whenever you need it. Because maybe there's some moment when you really need that creativity and it comes to you, and then you should be ready to capture it. And also you can start thinking about, like, how is your creativity working? Are you a person that looks like on the overall picture, or are you the one going to the very details of everything? Because both aspects are really important. I mean, there are journalists writing about global issues, and there are journalists that are going for that very specific local story, and those can both be very important. And it can work the same way in all creativity and all arts, basically. And I mean, then she goes on to explain many different concepts that can be helpful for your creativity, to look for new ideas and like just accept your failures and so on and so forth. But I think I'll end it at that. If you haven't read the book,
what did you like best?
Oh, I think for me it was actually the beginning of it, like the first chapters where she talks about the foundation of your creativity and where it comes from. So be ready for that kind of inspiring moment. And I mean, she also develops that a bit further later in the book about, for example, a concept called scratching, where you actually go looking for ideas and follow the role models and authors that you like. But I feel you need to have this foundation right, to have like your kind of your daily routine, your motivation, your habits in place, and then it will start to work out eventually. Yeah.
Do you think you can apply it?
Sure. I mean, in many ways. For example, I believe that if you need to have some kind of daily routine, you also, to actually do that, you need to find out what is the purpose of having that. Are you supporting in your life? And maybe that's also part of finding out your creativity. What is it that you're doing that is creative to you, and why is it so important for you? And then, like, going into the details, maybe you can find out what it is you need to do on a daily basis.
Yes.
Yeah. What did you like?
Oh, I like so many things about it. I like all the exercises she came up with. I tried a few, not all of them, because there are really a lot. And I just like the concept of making creativity a habit, because I myself, I'm totally a habit person. And this is not to say that I'm not spontaneous at all, but I really like to try out different kinds of habits, see if they work for me and how they work. And for example, also how to come up with ideas. You mentioned this scratching, but I also like her mentioning reading archaeologically, which means you start at some at a book, for example, and then you read the book backwards. So, for example, the book.
You have to explain that backwards. What does it mean?
Yeah, you don't. You open the end and then you read.
Okay, well.
No, you read backwards in time. That's what she means. It's you start with a contemporary book and then you read a preceding book. Like, for example, you have one author and you can read him backwards, starting with the most current book and then ending with the earlier one.
Is it like going to their sources in a way, or their inspiration? And
yeah, you can do that too, I guess. And then she also mentions reading around. Oh, I'm so sorry.
I like your
reading enthusiasm. I'm sorry. Reading around the book, like watching movies of the time, reading newspaper articles. And I really like this idea of really digging deep into something, because
it sounds like reading becomes kind of a research project about finding more about what they were thinking and why they were thinking what they wrote, in a way. Like,
yeah, I think if you do that with everything you create, then it's it can make every project kind of interesting. I mean, I write a lot of blog posts, for example, and this means a lot of writing of the more or less the similar content every week, and then it becomes kind of stale. But if you treat every blog post, every article, or just everything you do as a special project worth investing time and energy into, like a research project, then it can become interesting and it becomes something special. I think this is what I really love about the book, and that's something you can do every day a little bit.
Yes, I see that. I totally see that. Yeah.
Also, but of course, in our Read and Tell book club, we also do a lot of exercises.
Yes.
And so
I'm really excited about that part.
Like, we have prepared a few exercises this time. We have 4 exercises, and we will just run you through them, and you can do them at home if you want. Just write them down or post something in the comments. So the first exercise is related to the concept of feeling lucky, because she says that creativity is a habit, and she also says that the more you practice, the luckier you get. So this means that luck is something you can actually consciously practice and cultivate. So can you come up with a situation where you felt lucky, very lucky, at the last time you felt very lucky?
Well, nothing comes to mind right now. Let me just let it sink in a bit. Then, do you have a situation maybe?
It isn't a specific situation, perhaps, but a few months ago, I just started saying yes to a lot of projects. So I said yes to starting Herociety, for example. I said yes to starting a podcast for another project, and for a couple of articles I wrote. And this saying yes led to just more interesting projects coming up, and I just really felt lucky that I said yes to all those all those projects and all those requests for my time, because then I really started getting a few requests that were I thought were really interesting, and people started noticing me and what I do, and this led to even more interesting projects, I think. So keeping an open mind, saying yes to a thing, really opens the door to getting luckier.
But it's also kind of a confidence, because you got positive feedback, and then you'll feel like, oh, it's working for me, and then it's kind of this loop, right? And positive loop.
Yeah, but you also need to be careful. At some point, you have to stop saying yes to everything. You also need to think of your time and your resources. But
actually, I think like about this luck. I have for many years. I felt that luck is something that if you are really like, if you look for the right things, if you're kind of observant, then you can find luck in many places. I don't know. I don't have a specific situation, but there's so many times when I've been very late, because I'm generally bad at getting out of the door. So I have to kind of make all kind of things before I get out of the door, and then I'm always late. In this just short stories, like, then I missed maybe the train or the bus or something like this, or the bike broke down and I couldn't make it. And then I was just very searching for ways to get to this meeting or meeting that person or whatever it was. And in almost all cases, I made it, even though I thought it was impossible. I mean, there was a time when I was living in another city and missed the train, and then I took the next train, but the train stopped because there was a problem with the signals on the line, and we had to get out on a station that it normally didn't stop. And I got out. I was like totally lost, and I was going to a very important business meeting. And for some reason, I just saw this bus pull up, and I looked at where it was going. I thought, okay, it's the right direction. I took the bus, and it led to a station that I didn't know, but it had a train, and the train drove exactly where I needed to be. And I felt super lucky, because I arrived just 2 minutes before this meeting, and I made it. So, yeah.
So if you don't have a choice, sometimes you're forced to think positively and find solutions to a problem.
Yeah.
Well, I often get this this kind of negative vibe when there is a difficult situation, and this is kind of stressful, and people are starting to get anxious and saying, oh, how should we ever do this, and not coming up with solutions, but with even more problems. So this is the other way around.
Okay, yeah. So I mean, you can use it in both directions.
Yeah, you should use it in your way, actually, I guess.
That's the best way. So yeah, I mean,
yeah, start looking for luck everywhere.
Look for luck.
And regarding creativity, it's just this process of perhaps if you write a novel, just sitting down every day, give yourself the space and the time to be creative. This is the more you practice, the luckier you get. The more you open your eyes and your ears and whatever else you want to open to the world outside, the more will come to you.
Yes, I believe that. Totally. So the next exercise is about defining your creativity. Twyla Tharp calls it your creative DNA, or finding your creative DNA. And I mean, she talked about being good at drawing or dancing, but she because she had both kind of possibilities to be good at either of those things, but she finally figured out she could only achieve one of those skills. So the question is, what is the first creative moment you remember?
And I love this question. Really, I also loved her answer. It was something about a picture also. Her first creative dancing moves. For me, it's I remember being a very shy kid in kindergarten, and I came to the kindergarten when I was very young, only 10 months old, and I was actually not that shy at home. But when I went to this totally unfamiliar place, I felt very, very shy, and I didn't know how to connect with anybody. And then there was this. I don't really remember if it was a real theater play or something like that. I just remember that I played a kind of snowman in the kindergarten play, and I clearly remember this white suit I wore and the top hat I had, and I really loved this being another person, playing someone else.
Did you have a carrot nose?
No, I don't think so.
Like, what a bit funny.
I was so proud of myself, and everybody looking at me, and I remember standing there and look at me and look at my costume and look who I am. I really enjoyed this moment of kind of standing in the spotlight when I usually wouldn't have. I mean, in a family of four children and my parents, and in kindergarten where I didn't usually speak a lot, this was really my kind of moment. I really remember this clearly in my mind.
That's empowering. That's great.
Do you remember yours?
I mean, I don't remember what the earliest were, but I remember also like a school play. It was in the 5th grade. I was so proud of myself for it, like because I had to sing and I had to also play in the band, and I played like this sailor on a ship, like it was, and I had this costume on, and yeah, I mean, it was really, really cool to be on the stage and to show myself off. And actually, I'm thinking, I don't know what the first was, because I was also like, around the same time I was practicing to play on like a double keyboard piano, and that was also fun to show that when there was some contests, I had this chance to play this music. It was fun. Yeah.
I really love this question.
Yeah.
And it's actually...
And also like, sorry, but it's like, how do you connect then? Like, so do you think that first creative moment is in a way connected with our creative DNA, what we are today, in a way that...
Yeah, this is actually, because this question is actually part of a questionnaire that you can find in the book and answer to find out about what Twyla Tharp calls the creative DNA. What is the root of your creativity, and perhaps also what are you more inclined to do? Okay. What do you tend to do? Do you more tend to draw, or to write, or to perform, to sing, to dance? How do you express yourself? And maybe this first creative moment that you really remember and identify as a creative moment helps you to figure out what you really want to do.
Yes. So it can help you answer this kind of which direction should I look toward?
Yeah, I think so.
Yeah, that's really cool.
Should we move on?
Yeah, let's move on.
Next exercise is about fear. Will always come up. it will always come up in a creative situation, especially when you're ready to perform or show your the the results of the fruits of your creativity. So Twyla Tharp says that fear isn't actually something you need to be afraid of, but when it stops you in your tracks, then it will become a problem. Do you remember what is the dumbest thing you ever did, or something you perceived as the dumbest thing?
Well, the dumbest thing that I ever did. Well, I believe that I did many dumb things actually in my life. But hopefully not too dumb. Let me think about it. Do you have a story about that?
Yes. Yes, there are a lot of dumb things. I always felt kind of embarrassed at school when I needed to have to talk publicly. I've always felt embarrassed afterwards because I wasn't sure that I did my best.
Yeah.
Well, I tried to learn everything by heart, and then I felt still stupid afterwards because I was unsure of how much I was able to captivate my audience, and this was always a kind of thing with me.
I mean, nothing comes to mind right now relating to creativity, but for example, I don't know if it was dumb per se, but it was like I was so perfectionistic in my thinking back in ground school. So I got like A- in grades, and I was so angry about it. And it was actually a special kind of a test or like examination where we were in pairs and examined in pairs. So, but we were given individual grades, but me and my partner, we got the same grade, A-, and I was really saying he made everything wrong, but I didn't really take responsibility for that. And yeah, it was actually really stupid, I think.
Nobody wanted to take responsibility.
I should take responsibility for my own things. I think it took some time to learn that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, because you can always live up to your perceived failures too.
Yeah.
Because they help you actually. I think every time I held a speech, in the end, it really helped me to move forward. Even though I always thought for a long time they just are the most painful moments in my life. But the more I practice and the better I get. So I see every speech that I hold nowadays and every story I tell nowadays as an opportunity to practice. I don't strive to be perfect anymore. I just strive to be the best I can be in the moment.
That's really a good takeaway from that. Yeah.
Yeah, and fear is really something not to be feared, but to be embraced. Because it shows you what is really important to you.
So let me get this. So if you know if you identify some situation where you have fear and you know what it is that makes you fearful, then you also can use that to find out what it is you want to improve in your life, so you can work on that more and like practice and yeah, maybe implement a daily routine about learning that kind of things that you're fearful towards.
I'm always for tackling your fears, yes. Especially when it comes to expressing yourself. And if there's some kind of barrier that keeps you from expressing yourself in the way you think is best, you decided to embrace, then I would say this is worth tackling
Yes.
And yeah, so there's this kind of fear that keeps you and holds you back, like she says. But there's also this kind of fear that moves you forward, because this is just keeps you on your track. Just a little bit nervous is always good. Then you are in the moment.
Oh yes. Oh, I don't know why I remember this, but it's also an examination situation in that was a bit later in high school, kind of, and there I never tried this before, but at this examination, like I went in and they asked me some questions. I think it was, I don't know, math or physics, and I was just blank. Basically, I couldn't say anything. I didn't have anything to say. I didn't know what to say and how to begin or anything. And I was like, for me it seemed 8 years, like. And then they said, okay, just breathe and take it slow, and then go out of the door and go in again. We'll try again. I was like, okay, it was weird. I went outside and went in, and then somehow it worked. I mean, I had tackled this kind of stressful hormones in my body, and I could just perform, and I was like, went really, really good actually. So I don't know, I never tried it before that and after that, so it was a one-time like experience.
So sometimes you just need to get out of the situation.
Yeah, and then in it again,
and maybe. In it again.
Maybe you see it differently.
Take a deep breath. No.
Yes, that was really cool that the examiners told me that actually. Okay, let's move on to the last and fourth exercise about deprivation. So in Twyla Tharp, she experienced at some point an injury, and as a dancer, she was forced to describe, like with words, her ideas, what she wanted in her dances to the people that would actually be performing the dance, instead of showing it. So normally she would practice herself in the morning before the performance arrived, and then when they arrived, she would show the dance move that they had to practice. But as she couldn't do that from that injury, she now had to use her words to describe the same thing, and it was really difficult for her in the beginning because there's so many ways to move your body that is kind of intrinsic knowledge, and you can't really explain it. But then she was basically, she had to. There were no other way forward, basically. And there's a quote from the book, "No deprivation, no inspiration." Because what she experienced was that when she was forced to think about the dance moves in another way, in a way of words and spoken out, then she had to be more like, she got into the details about it and learned to express herself more fluently in a way. And maybe that can be a powerful source. If you ever lose something, then maybe you can turn it around and actually learn something. What is it that you now have to do that moves you forward even more? And if we're thinking like that, why aren't we doing that already? I mean, without losing that already. So the question will be like, did you ever lose your biggest skill? And I have a short story to that, because I grew up in Denmark, and then around 7 years ago, I moved to Germany, and it's another language. It's kind of the same language family, but still very different. And I could speak German a bit. I had it in school and so on, but it's not the same thing. Like school German and actual real life German is very, very different. And I felt that I lost my skill to express myself very precisely in language. And I mean, I could maybe attend some parties and understand some things that people were saying, but then when I had to express myself, I was like, I didn't want to express myself. That was actually the fear again, is speaking. But I tried doing something about it. I went to some language cafes where we just spoke German in a relaxed environment, and I went to some also some language schools to advance my German level, and that eventually it helped actually a lot, and just be around other people speaking German natively, it's really helps you to kind of foster that feeling of you can do it and it's okay, and even if you use a word wrongly sometimes, people can understand you, and then eventually I started to gain that confidence. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
So that's my story about moving to another country. Do you have a story about losing your biggest skill?
I don't know if it was my biggest skill, but when I was a teenager, I loved to draw. So I drew mostly women. I don't know why I had this fascination with drawing
the women body.
Yes. So I did that for a few years, just drawing whenever I could, and I also got myself this book on how to draw a portrait of a person, and I did that, and I got quite good. But then, as I lost more and more of my eyesight, and nowadays I'm blind, so I couldn't draw anymore. I lost my interest in drawing because I used to draw with those pencils, and they're really hard to see. And so later on, I couldn't see my own drawings anymore, so I lost interest. And then I thought I could try something else, just turn to writing and describing much more instead of drawing, and just experiencing the world in this way. And as I lost more and more of my eyesight, I also started to hear and smell more and more, and experience the world by touch, and in this way create stories that are much more built and based on those senses instead of my eye. But at first it was a real drawback, and I was really sad that I couldn't do that anymore.
Yeah. Wow. So actually, you learned to kind of experience and put value on other senses in a way.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Yes.
Oh, that's a great story.
Yeah, so I think it's really so. In this case, I didn't have a choice, and Twyla Tharp didn't have a choice. She got injured, and I lost my eyesight. So, but you can, but you can. The point is that you can use those deprivations in a creative way. So. If you are a dancer, for example, you can just consciously handicap yourself in a way.
Yeah.
Just don't dance without using your arms.
Okay. Yeah.
Experience the world without hearing or seeing.
And if you're an author, you should write without a typewriter, or what?
Yeah, perhaps you can find another way to write. Just write with the left hand. Or a big part of writing is also experiencing the world and writing down dialogues and stuff like that. So if you just focus on some other senses instead,
yes,
this can also be a well of inspiration. If you experience the world without being able to walk properly,
yes,
you can just walk on one foot, or you may not be able to walk at all for
one day maybe
time. But she also, as Twyla Tharp also mentions, deprivations like not reading the newspaper for a week, or not watching movies for a week. This makes you really focus on what is really
yes. It changes your
important.
perspective.
Yes.
Okay, that's great. Some great exercises. I mean, you can do all of them or just one of them, whatever you like.
So all in all, we got a lot of creativity and inspiration out of this book.
Yes.
And really loved it.
It's The Creative Habit by Twyla Tharp. And I'll put it in the description below if you want to read it.
Yeah, so for the next book club will be on the 24th of April. That's a Saturday.
Yes.
And do you know what we are going to read already?
The 7 Habits of Highly Effective People. Right?
Right. Yeah. Right. We're looking forward to that.
Yes.
See you then.
See you then. Have a nice time. Bye.
Bye.